Oh, hi. So this is a video I've been wanting to do for a while about this thing, the Edgerouter X. I don't really want to review this thing or tell you how to set it up or complain about it. This thing's been around for a while. It's been around for a few years. I got this thing a couple of years ago. There's lots of videos tell you what it is and how to set it up and why on earth you'd want one. This is basically just me telling you my sad story about the Edgerouter X. I like the Edgerouter X. I use it. It's a great router, but I had a lot of trouble with it getting it set up correctly. Main thing I just wanted to say about it that a lot of these other videos that talk about it probably may not mention is that this is a device that's just really squirrely. When I got this a couple years ago, the first thing I did with it was I bricked it. The way that happened was, well, that comes into what the other thing about this thing is. It's also squirrely in another way. One, this thing has an operating system. It's not a router you just plug it in and it just goes like every other router I use. This one, it's got an operating system. It's got all kinds of menus in there you got to deal with. Got all kinds of setup commands you got to deal with. It's got a command line interface you got to deal with. It's way more complicated than I would ever want to deal with if I didn't need the one feature on it that I want. But anyway, it's really touchy about those settings. You go in there, you don't know what you're doing, like me. If you're an idiot about routers like I am, and you go in there and you start changing stuff around just to see what it does, well, the first thing you're going to find out is that about half the time you're gonna lock it up. Its little operating system is just gonna hang itself completely up, and at that point, your only option is gonna be to use the reset button on the back, blank it out to its factory defaults, and then either set it up from scratch or load your previously saved configuration that you hopefully have. And if you don't know what you're doing, and this is how you're finding out how to do it, you may be doing this a lot. Now, I work for a living. I work a lot for a living, and I don't have a lot of time to play with this, so it's taken me some time to deal with this. But anyway, a lot of trouble setting it up. Bricked it on the first day. Because when I followed the standard procedure for setting this thing up for the first time, which I won't go into because there's lots of videos about that, got into its menus, ran the little wizard to do the basic setup, plug it into the computer, nothing, no internet, can't even access the router. Why is that? Well, the first thing that occurred to me is, well, maybe I need to update the firmware, right? Okay, so I update the firmware, reset it, it bricks. It sits there. It's dead. All right. Well, you might think, well, he's an idiot. He put the wrong image on there. I suppose anything's possible, but I may be an idiot where routers are concerned, but I've updated the firmware on lots of stuff, and I know how to be careful doing that. Ubiquiti was kind enough to RMA the thing. So after about a month and a half, I had another copy of this to play with. In the meantime, I had discovered, using my primary method of finding these things out, which is Google everything. The world will explode in a ball of fire if Google goes down. I'm just warning you. But besides that, what I discovered from Google was that what you need to do with this thing, if you happen to have a modem that your ISP requires you to use, which I believe they call a PACE 5031NV. If you happen to have that modem that your ISP requires you to use in order to use their service, that modem apparently is not going to work with this router unless you tell the modem to configure the router as a DMZ device. Now, when I read that, I kind of fell down in despair because well, I wasn't really sure what DMZ was, for one thing. And for another thing, I'd looked around inside the menus of that modem a few times, and I'd never seen anything about configuring anything to be a DMZ device. But it will do it. The way to make that happen is buried at the bottom of a seemingly completely unrelated chain of menus, but it is in there. You can do it. So I managed to get the modem to say, okay, this is a DMZ device now, and set the router up when I got it back and got on the internet, and it worked. Okay, so I thought I was okay at that point, but no. After a while, started to notice some problems. Funny things happening on different kinds of connections, and most particularly if I was playing any kind of a fast-paced video game like, I don't know, for example, Unreal Tournament 3, I would find that every 10 minutes exactly, it would be like the internet connection would drop for like 10 seconds, and it would basically be like 10 seconds of lag every 10 minutes, which is a little annoying. A, because I had no idea why it was doing that, and B, I didn't have any idea what to do about it. So I kind of lived with that for a while because, the main reason I have this router is for the, what do they call it, the quality control. It's a particular kind of quality control, which is used to get rid of buffer bloat. Not a whole lot of routers have that function or that feature. Even today, I don't think. When I got this was one of the few. And if you wanted a different router with that, you were going to spend a lot more money. This is Ubiquiti's cheapest router. If you brick it, there's no easy way to get back from that. You can take it apart and use a special cable and go through all kinds of hell and possibly get back from a brick that way, but probably you're going to RMA it if you're an idiot like me. All the or more expensive ones, there's ways around it. So anyway, I also discovered, that this is a router that's made for people that know what they're doing. And I discovered that these people are scum. They're horrible human beings. They should not exist. If you're one of those, this is a good router for you. If you're not, you're in hell. If you set it up and it works with your other hardware correctly, you're good. These people that know what they're doing, they're out there. They'll tell you how to do that. They'll tell you how to set this thing up in a situation where everything's okay and nothing goes wrong. If you're in a funny situation like me with hardware that don't want to work with each other, they don't know. They don't know. They'll wave their hands. They'll give you a lot of good sage advice. A lot of maybe throw in an aphorism or two, but they don't know what to tell you. Google wasn't much help either. I did actually eventually find out from Google what the problem was, but even the web pages that told me what it was never told me what to do about it. Right? I eventually kind of pieced it together. Of course, if I knew what I was doing, knowing what the problem was would likely be enough to tell me what to do about it. But I'm not one of those people. And anyway, so what the problem was. Turns out that this modem, this PACE modem, if you tell it to use this router as a DMZ device, the modem's going to be like, okay, I can do that. But you know what? From now on, while I'm using your router as a DMZ device, I'm gonna renew its DHCP license every 10 minutes. I'm just not gonna tell you about it, right? You go look around in the modem, look around in the router, find every setting for DHCP renewal you can. They'll all say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do that every 24 hours, no problem," right? Yeah, but they're lying because the modem's gonna do it every 10 minutes, and that's it. Yeah, it's just not going to tell you about it. This here is the dashboard on the router. This is like the central control. It tells you everything that's going on with it. The main line you got to look at here is this one, the top line with the black box in it. That's ETH0. That's your connection to the internet. This is what's getting renewed every 10 minutes. This black box is covering up the IP address for the router. When you first set this up, normally it's going to be set up as a DHCP a defined address. First thing you got to do is change that. There's three things you got to do for that. First thing, you hit this button, Actions, and this is the router. This is the ATT UVerse. ATT uses this. ATT UVerse 503N1V paste. Piece of crap. But I won't go into that. These are a few command line interface connections. I mentioned this router has a command line interface. These are a couple useful commands for it. If you're one of the few people in the world that's ever going to have, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one, but there might have been one other. But these are a couple of commands for the command line interface that might come in handy. Show DHCP client leases will give you a page of information. One of the pieces of information it tells you about is how often your DHCP leases are being renewed on your router. And if it says 600 seconds, guess what? You're having this problem. This other one is show IP route. You can use that to figure out what your gateway is, because you got to plug that in you got to plug that into the router. Supposedly, I'm not for sure if that's for sure, but that will tell you what your gateway is. So anyway, you go into the dashboard. You go over here. You hit Actions. Actions is going to bring up this box. Initially, it's going to say defined by DHCP. You change that. You select it to manually define IP address. Whatever's under this box, you put it in here. You hit Save, and you're done there. Right? Okay. That's not going to get you on the internet. Next thing you got to do is go down here, hit this System button. Get to this is going to come up. You're going to go over here where this black box is. You're going to type in your gateway address. Now, I'm not totally for sure that this part is necessary, but everything I read on Google says you have to do this, so I did it. I don't experiment with this router because, like I said, it locks up at the drop of a hat. If you want, you can go over here and set your name server stuff to these Google numbers because they're supposed to be good. Then you scroll further down, hit the save button. Maybe you want to restart it. That's still not going to get you on the internet, because the next thing you got to do is go up in here and hit this routing button. That is going to get you to this screen. This is the routing screen. It's a router. It does routing. This is the routing screen. All right, if that makes sense. Anyway, when you go earlier, when you went through this thing and you set this to when you set this line ETH0 to be manually defined, what happened was back here on this routing screen, this first line that says static over here, ETH0, there was a line here before you set it to manual that said static, and it said something equivalent. I think it connected the gateway to that. But when you set the ETH0 to manual, that line goes away. And that line right there is what connects you to the internet. So after you set your ETH0 to manual and all that, your static connection to the internet goes away. You're going to have to put it back before you can get on the internet. You do that. You go up here. You hit Add Static Route. That's going to bring up this box. You select Interface. Type in 0.0.0.0/0. Next top interface ETH0. This may be entirely the wrong way to do it, by the way. I just guessed at this and got lucky. This works. There could be a really good reason why I'm totally screwing myself over doing it this way. If there is, well, I hope I don't find out the hard way, but fuck it, it works. I'm not dealing with this. So that's it. Once you hit that, you're on the internet, and your stuff won't refresh every 10 minutes and screw up your Unreal Tournament 3 game, right? Yeah, it took me a long time to figure this out. I have no idea what I'm doing with routers. I thought for a while, well, it's the NAT doing it, because the NAT wasn't getting set. Well, the NAT getting set was a symptom of this problem. It wasn't what was causing it. Anyway, NAT? NTP. The damn clock. The thing has a clock. The clock wasn't getting set. All right. Port 123 or some bolt. I don't care. Anyway, the clock gets set. Everything works now. The video games work. All these other funny little things don't happen anymore. Great. Nice little router. Why do you want this router? The only reason to have this router is you go up here to the QoS tab, hit Basic Q. There's a dumb way to there's more elaborate ways to do this, but this is simple and it works. Over here you got your local addresses for whatever computers are plugged into this router. This is your upload rate. This is your download rate. This is FQ code, whatever that means. Actually, these rates here are a little bit smaller than your actual upload rates. You can make these a lot smaller if you want, but they have to be smaller because this is how you're going to get rid of buffer bloat. This garbage right here. You fill that in, add a queue, however many queues you need, hit apply, you're done. And then you got the magic of whatever they call this stuff. Yeah, so that's this router. You go up on this website, grc.com. They'll probe all your ports for you. I just use the default firewall on this thing that the wizard gives you. GRC says that all my ports are stealth. It seems to think that's a good thing. I'm happy with that. All right. And the only other reason to have this is so you can go to DSL reports, run the speed test, and get an A on buffer bloat. That's it. That and you'll reduce your input lag on your video games by a tiny amount. It does help. I'll give it that. Yeah. Do I have anything else to say about this junk? Not really. I guess I could add as an addendum to this that I watched Isaac Arthur's video the other day about how we're supposed to survive as a species the next 100 years. Yeah, I did a big long harangue about that the other day, and I recorded it, so maybe I'll just add that on to the end of this and give you a picture to stare at or something. All right, that's all I got to tell you. Have a good evening.